Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1985's Tenement, aka Game of Survival, aka Slaughter in the South Bronx. This is directed by a director that needs to be talked about more, Miss Roberta Findlay. Yes, a female director that did exploitation, horror, and X-rated sex films. Here she is, Roberta Findlay. I also looked at her, another one of her films on this YouTube page. You can find the review for a film called Lurkers, an awesome horror film called Lurkers. Tenement right here is one of her exploitation, urban decay, inner city films, and boy is it all that. This actually was rated X by the MPAA. As she explains in the interview portion of this disc, most X-rated sex films were not seen by the MPAA. They were self-imposed, triple X, which doesn't really exist. But this film was actually given an X rating for the violence. It was deemed too violent, graphic violence for 1985. So this is some gritty, violent stuff here, folks. Let's look at Tenement right here, directed by Roberta Findlay from 1985. This is a film that documents in real time a portion of the South Bronx and gang activity and the influence and the effect of this gang activity in a neighborhood and in an apartment complex, and the innocent people and that live there, and all the different people and families that live in this apartment complex, and how they are impacted by a particular gang in this area. This film details the activity and the effects of the gang. It also details vengeance and racial tensions and drugs and sexuality and protection and poverty and family. It's all in here, folks. This is Tenement. First and foremost, let's look at the music for this gritty film. Tenement has a theme song that's played at the beginning of the movie and also at the end of the movie that really has a strong kind of early rap feel, kind of the early inner city rap that came out kind of in the early 80s, and it has that vibe to it. It kind of sounds, by today's standards of rap music, it kind of has, that, oh, this is fun, but then you listen to the lyrics and the lyrics are not fun at all. But tenement, everybody come on down, like that kind of stuff. And it's really good, and especially effective in the closing frame of the movie. Thought it was really effective. The rest of the movie is filled with tons of music, and the music is interesting though because it's very episodic to me. The music kind of, you get these sections of music throughout the film, and each one of those sections, it's really a small piece. It's like a short song. It's a short piece of score music, and that plays or that loops in that particular scene, and then we go on with the film, and then another piece of music hits us. And the music, I just thought, was unbelievable in this film. The score music in here, we have so many different styles playing here. We had some like kind of some hard rock elements. We had groovy, funky exploitation, disco, just that almost just funk groove. We also had some oppressive noise at some very disturbing sequences in the film that really complemented those disturbing sequences. We also have soundscapes in this film that are just true to the South Bronx, true to the to the city vibe. Roberta Findlay calls this the suburbs. I mean, she was raised in this area supposedly. Um, but you kind of throughout the film, when there's music not playing, you will hear the sounds of the city. You'll hear them and they sound legit. The sounds of cars, the sounds of people talking in other apartments. And this is a tenement. And there's a negative connotation to the word tenement, which is really kind of an apartment building. That negative connotation to tenement really comes from the States. It comes from America. And it's interesting because you get a strong feel of that apartment vibe in all the soundscapes for the film. Um, there were sections of the music in this film that really reminded me of something that Goblin would do for Dario Argento, you know, some music that you might have heard in Suspiria or in Tenebrae or something. Very, very interesting. A couple sequences in particular were just stand out, and they were all really, really great. Now, when we look at the style and the cinematography for this film, you know, this is a very, very brutal, gritty, urban film. This is truly disturbing city exploitation. The pacing is spectacular. I thought the acting was awesome. This is a film of characters. This is a film of characters in different apartments. The majority of the film takes place inside of this tenement. And for those of you who live in apartment complexes, whoever did, I've always enjoyed the beauty of living in them and experiencing them in cinema. I love them. I love the elements of all these people, 15 families living on one floor, and then another 15 different people, and all the mysterious, background stories of each person who lives there. There's a single guy, there's a blind guy, there's a couple families, there's a couple single mothers. You have all of these different elements. There's an old couple, there's a woman that's lived there for 40 years, a Jewish woman. And the beautiful thing about apartments is that they're filled with stories. They're filled with maybe some mysterious people, some people who don't talk as much, and then they can also be like an extended family, where in this film it's portrayed as well, where you have, people have parties together, or people watch each other's kids, and so forth. And we have children in this film as well. The film takes place in real time, and the interesting thing about it is that the time will flash up on the screen, and the location within the tenement, which floor we are going to in the tenement, as the movie goes on. It's now, it's now nighttime. It's now we're getting very, very late at night, and almost in a way, I could almost see this film being a really like having like a video game format, in that we are going from floor to floor to floor, higher and higher up within the tenement, as the action of the movie and as the violence and the vengeance of the movie takes place. And since the movie operates in real time, there is no break. There is no there's no movement away from what is taking place. You are stuck there for as long as this movie is playing in your DVD player. You are stuck there, and you don't leave the tenement. Once you get into the tenement, you don't leave it. There's a brief section where you're not there, but that's about it. This is a very, very violent film, even by today's 2017 standards. Watching this film from 1985, you could watch this and say, man, this thing could not be released in theaters today at all. It is very brutal, very disturbing. It's not quote unquote gory, but whoever said gory was necessarily always equal to disturbing. This is a film that's extremely violent. It's grim, it's dark, it's upsetting. It has a nihilistic vibe to it. The violence is the screams kind of shatter your soul. The way people are dying, the way innocent people are dying in the movie is heartbreaking. there's a level of insanity in the film, especially mixing drugs, angel dust, and there's an element of just a brutality. The main villains of the film, the gang in the film, truly brutal, but at the same time very, very realistic in the way that they speak, in the way that they interact with each other within the gang, in also the police system. Things are very, very real in this film. I thought very upsetting and very real. Lots of knife violence. There's sexual violence in this film. There's one scene in particular that is just actually the first real murder sequence in the film. Very, very brutal. Just picture the urban decay of a movie like Street Trash. You know, you take take those types of elements, and take, kind of the drug elements in some ways of a movie that I recently reviewed called Liquid Sky, which you can find on this YouTube page. You just kind of have a very grim, rough, poor vibe to this film that is legit. It feels right. It feels real. It feels true. This is a non-stop movie. It's very, very captivating, very interesting, very interestingly repulsive. We have some topless nudity in this film that involves blood and blood sex. There's violence towards animals in the movie. One of the first kind of not real. I mean, there's not real animal violence. Is it real with a rat? I don't know. No, it's not. I don't think so. But the very, very disturbing sequences in this film, and why this film is not, looked at or talked about more is really dumbfounding to me. But you just can't believe what people are saying. You can't believe what people are doing. You're wrapped up in this world, and there are very uncomfortable scenes where you're just left with the violence. You're left with what you are watching, and it's not candy coated. The camera does not move away from what is happening. The camera is staying right there. When people talk about Rob Zombie's Devil's Rejects and inside the hotel scene, kind of the sexual violence inside the hotel of Devil's Rejects, that vibe, that energy is all throughout this film, Tenement. So this is directed by a woman. Okay, it's pretty unbelievable. We have very few female directors in these genres, and especially a movie this brutal. Stereotypically, people would never think a woman would do it, especially some of the violence and the insanity involving women in this film. I love Roberta Findlay, and in the future I'll be looking at more of her films, her horror films, and also her X-rated sex films as well, her hardcore films. So this is Tenement, 1985, Slaughter in the South Bronx, Game of Survival. This is not for everybody, and this is only for people who like it rough. This is a rough, rough film with a great ending also, and some surprises along the way with the characters. Some great characters in this film, and some great kind of ethnic, racial diversity in this film as well, and some real love and relationships in this film also, but some twists and some turns involving the characters as the climax hits. Here it is, folks. Tenement Game of Survival, Slaughter in the South Bronx, Miss Roberta Findlay, 1985. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page. Please feel free to check out my own personal films at Apartment 1014 Films. Thank you so much.